There are trade rumors out there that the Islanders may be interested in a scoring winger, but how realistic are the rumors and would it happen? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets. If your best bet of $5 or more wins, just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic that you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game, so join me for some instant insight and analysis. And it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. So, some rumors out there about the Islanders possibly being interested in a scoring winger. And it comes from a pretty reliable source. The 32 Thoughts podcast, Jeff Marek, Elliot Friedman, two well-known NHL insiders. And here is the deal. According to them, it is very possible that 27-year-old Russian winger Andrei Kuzmenko, he's on the trade block from Vancouver, and the Islanders and the Blackhawks are among the two teams that were mentioned as possible trade destinations. Now, Kuzmenko, last year, 39 goals for the Canucks. This year, not as good. 43 games so far, 8 goals, 13 assists. He has been a healthy scratch a few times for the Canucks. And look, Vancouver right now sitting on top of the world as far as near first place in the league in points. And there are questions about Kuzmenko's effort, his consistency, and whether or not he fits in right now with Rick Tocchet's system up in Vancouver. And, Tocchet quoted in The Province, a paper up in British Columbia, we have a lot of good guys. They'll go up to him and explain things, but you got to take initiative, and it really starts in practice. Like if there's a drill and you're supposed to go this way, you got to do it that way. And you got to do it with pace. And, sometimes it's hit or miss with him. Patrick Waugh probably not going to take a lack of effort from Kuzmenko or from anybody else, really. And here's sort of the twist to Kuzmenko. Right now, last year, he had the 39 goals and 74 points. But his shooting percentage last year was 27.6, which means that's not likely to be repeated. He is not going to give you another 39 goal season. But he certainly could give you, well, maybe 25, maybe even a little more. Jim Rutherford, Canucks president, basically told Sportsnet, certainly the way he plays, you should be able to project him at 25 goals. So his shooting percentage this season, 10.5. So way back down to earth, back into the normal range, you're not going to get 27.6% shooting on a regular basis. And look, in the KHL, which is where he started, he's been pretty steady. His goal totals started at, single digits, went up in 2017, 2018 to 13, 12, 14, 18, and then 20 in 45 games in his last year in the KHL. And scoring is usually a little lower in the KHL than it is in the NHL. And then he made his NHL debut last year in Vancouver with that 39 goal, 74 point season. He was a +9. But this year, as I said, 8 goals, 21 points in 43 games. He's been a healthy scratch a few times. It looks like a change of scenery could benefit him. And I'll tell you something else. He could use the change of scenery. I don't think he would cost all that much as far as the Islanders are concerned. What would it take to acquire him? Vancouver is kind of out, not desperate for anything. Maybe they would take a middle round pick and, a guy like JG Pageau or another mid-tier player. Here is, though, the sort of not in all of the proceedings here. The cap hit right now for Kuzmenko is $5.5 million a year. And the Islanders would have to find a way to fit him under the cap. He signed a 2-year extension with $5.5 million and a modified no trade clause. So we'll see, whether or not he'd agree to go to the Islanders. Certainly he would have fellow Russians on this team. You have the 2 goalies, Varlamov, Sorokin. You certainly have a nice sized Russian community, Russian emigre community in the New York metropolitan area. But will Lou Lamoriello be interested in Kuzmenko, taking a chance on him? It's not a big risk because you have just the rest of this season and then next season on his deal. You'd have to free up some cap space, though, to fit the $5.5 million on this team. And he has been a teammate of Bo Horvat. We know that. I'm sure Horvat would speak to Lou Lamoriello, give him his opinion on what Kuzmenko can do. And we'll see whether or not, a streaky scorer like Kuzmenko could give the Islanders a lift. Because let's face it, 5-on-5 right now, the Islanders only have one line consistently contributing, and that's Horvat, Lee, and Barzal. Almost all of Brock Nelson's goals are coming at even on the power play. At even strength, Palmieri, Nelson, Engvall, not getting a lot done. Offensively, not a lot from the third line. Fourth line, their job is not necessarily to create points. So, difficult situation. Not a huge gamble as far as term and as far as what it would cost most likely to acquire him. But would Lou Lamoriello pull the trigger on a deal like that to try to help this team? And whatever you do, Lou, please Do not trade away another first-round pick this year. Let's hold on to one of them, for crying out loud, in our forever quest, it seems, to find 8th place. All right, we have got a lot more to get to, and we will keep you up to date on all the latest rumors concerning Kuzmenko and anybody else who might be rumored heading to the Islanders. We've got a lot more to get to on today's show. Who is the MVP for the Islanders at this point? To me, there's two main candidates. Let's see what you think, and we'll put a poll up on our YouTube page as well. Plus, The Athletic talked about the odds of every team winning the Cup in the next 5 years. We'll talk about where the Islanders fell. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a controversial enforcer who left the Islanders under, well, let's just say not exactly the best of circumstances. Let's see if you can guess who that is. He played for the Islanders in the mid to late 2000s. All that and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or even 3. Now you can bet on who will win the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So, MVP. We're on the bye week. We've got the All-Star break. No games until Monday of next week when the Islanders return to action in Toronto in their final game this year against the Maple Leafs and some guy who wore pajamas in a picture on social media. But through the first 49 games of this season, who would you say is the Islanders' most valuable player? And, maybe there's 4 guys who I think could really get some consideration. So I'm going to go with those 4 and list them. Brock Nelson leads the team in goals. Bo Horvat is second in goals, third in points. Mathew Barzal, second on the team in points. Noah Dobson leads the team in assists, leads the team in points, 52 points in 49 games. Barzal got the nod for the All-Star game. And let's face it, the All-Star game, it doesn't really mean a lot. They try to pick the best player from each team, but they're also, they need 1 player minimum from every team, and they need a certain number of defensemen and a certain number of goalies and a certain number of forwards. So it's not just like, okay, these are the best. This is the best 1 player. Barzal, to me, is kind of deserving, but I would have gone with Noah Dobson. And you want to hear a few reasons. Number 1, Dobson leading the Islanders with 20 power play points. He's also by far leading the Islanders in plus minus. He has a plus 21 in plus minus. The next highest Islander is his defense partner most of the time, Alexander Romanov, with a plus 12. Nobody else has more than a plus 6. Dobson also leads the team right now in blocked shots. He has 9 more than the next highest Islander, which is Alexander Romanov. To me, while he still does turn the puck over a little bit too often in his own zone, Dobson has been the big difference maker for the Islanders this year. He has raised his game to a different level, and I think he's doing better defensively, better offensively. He is trying to make plays that he wouldn't have even attempted a year or two ago. And he's not only attempting these crazy passes, but he's getting them through and setting things up. His shots on goal are higher. He is just doing, I think, a great all-around job. Bo Horvat, he gives you some leadership. He's already at 20 goals. He really should have a 30-goal season this year, kind of on pace for about a 65, 70-point year. And Brock Nelson leading the team in goals, which is great to see. And again, helping out on that power play. Bo Horvat, by the way, leading the team in power play goals. I think you can make arguments for a lot of these different players. I wouldn't go with either Ilya Sorokin or Semyon Varlamov. Varlamov, hasn't really played enough games. 16 out of the 49 that the team has played. And Sorokin, while he's been, good, hasn't been grade A Ilya Sorokin. And the 317 goals against average, the 909 save percentage, these are numbers that are just not MVP of the team kind of numbers. And I feel that, to me, the 4 finalists would be Nelson, Horvat, Barzal, and Dobson. The 2, real finalists, maybe the 4 semifinalists would be Nelson, Horvat, Barzal, and Dobson. The 2 finalists would be Barzy and Dauber. And I would give it to Dobson, but I'm really interested to hear what you think. And please also, if you do answer the YouTube poll, leave a comment and explain why you feel that way. I would go with Dauber, but again, a lot up there for consideration, and I'm very eager to hear what my viewers and my listeners think as to who should be the Islanders' half-season MVP. Now, you still have 33 games left on the schedule, so hopefully the Islanders pick things up and it'll get even more interesting. Maybe some of these guys will make things a little tougher for the full season MVP. But as of right now, that's where I would vote. And again, always interested in hearing your opinion about that. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. The Athletic just doing an article last week about the odds of all 32 teams in this league. What are their odds of winning a Stanley Cup in the next 5 years? We'll talk about where the Islanders landed on that list, whether I think that's a fair assessment, and what can be done to improve their chances. We've got all that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. And yeah, that includes Locked On NHL. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So The Athletic, as I said, released an article about, well, here's the title. The title is, which NHL teams have the worst odds of winning the Stanley Cup by 2028? And they ranked all the teams from 32 all the way to 1. Well, they actually only went up to 17 because that's the playoff cutoff. I'll tell you right now, the team that was ranked the lowest was the San Jose Sharks. They are in a massive rebuild. And I will say that two of the Islanders' division rivals were below them on this list. The Washington Capitals, 31st, with an aging team. The Pittsburgh Penguins, 30th, also a team that has a lot of older players and really all their best players, Crosby, Malkin, Carlson, all on the other side of 30. But in 29th, basically with the fourth worst odds in the NHL, according to The Athletic, your New York Islanders. And here's what the article said. Lou Lamoriello is 81, and he won't be the GM for all 5 years, we have to assume. But whoever replaces him will be stuck with most of his roster thanks to all these long-term deals, and that's going to make life difficult. It's certainly not hopeless here, as the Islanders have an all-world goaltender in his prime, and the hiring of Patrick Waugh as coach is at least a little bit intriguing in the short term. But it feels like a chunk of our 5-year window is going to be spent watching a new GM get to work on retooling, if not rebuilding, and the odds that the Islanders would win a cup in the next 5 years, 6%. I have to say, I kind of agree with roughly this assessment. I mean, first of all, winning a cup is hard. There's 32 teams. If everybody wins one cup every 32 years, that would be the average. The Islanders have gone more than 40 now. But the way this team is built, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is you have a core of players who you really can work with. Barzal, Horvat. I guess I would count Nelson still in that list. Simon Holmstrom is a useful piece. I don't know how much upside he has. You have Pelech and Polak, Dobson for sure, and obviously Ilya Sorokin. But you also have 10 players on this team with either full or modified no-trade clauses. Bo Horvat, Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, J.G. Pageau, Kyle Palmieri, Pierre Engvall, Adam Pelech, Scott Mayfield, Semyon Varlamov, Ryan Polak. That is a lot of guys with no trade clauses or modified no trade clauses. And then you have guys who are on very, very long-term deals with salaries that don't match their production. Anders Lee, this year and 2 more years at $7 million a year. He's already 33. I don't think he's earning, producing at a $7 million a year pace now. What will he be like in a couple of years? Kyle Palmieri, this year and next year, $5 million. Pierre Engvall, 7 more years, 6 more after this year. There are, and by the way, with regard to Noah Dobson, you have him under contract this year and next year, then you've got to get him to a new deal. So it won't be easy to rebuild or retool this team. I'm not saying it will be impossible. You have a core that you can build around, but whoever the next GM is, or if Lou Lamoriello decides, you know what, this team, we've maxed out with what we've got to try to, retool or rebuild, he or his successor are going to have their work cut out for them. It will take some creativity, whether it's LTIR, waivers, trades, getting players to waive no trade clauses, buyouts, whatever the case is. It will take some time and some creativity for this team to bounce back after, the Anders Lee and the Brock Nelsons and the Martin Cizicases and Clutterbucks and Palmieri's all get older and slow down and get less productive and are still sitting there with no trade clauses and large salaries. But again, you got Sorokin. He can keep you in any game. You've got guys who can produce. A couple of really smart trades could change the equation in a hurry. I don't know if Lou Lamoriello is the guy to make that deal and to do that. He is more in win now mode, even if the team maybe isn't built that way. But disappointing to see the Islanders 29th out of 32 teams as far as the Athletic was concerned as to their odds of winning a Stanley Cup in the next 5 years. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And yeah, we're on time. Today is the 52nd birthday of former Islanders forward Chris Simon, the Wawa, Ontario native, second-round pick of the Flyers back in 1990. Made his NHL debut with the Quebec Nordique back in 92-93. Was a member of the Avalanche in 95-96 when they won a Stanley Cup. Played for the Capitals for many years, the Blackhawks, the Rangers, the Flames, and then joined the Islanders in the 06-07 season. Had a pretty good year. 10 goals, 27 points, 67 games, 75 playoff penalty minutes, rather. Plus 17. Pretty impressive. But in 07-08, only 1 goal, 3 points, 43 penalty minutes in 28 games. And there was that infamous incident. He had a couple of infamous incidents that ended up with him being suspended for quite a long time. And it ended up costing him. He briefly went to the Minnesota Wild before finishing his career in the KHL. And he played through the 2012-2013 season. 782 goals, 144 points, 144 goals, 305 points, 1,824 penalty minutes, add 10 goals, 17 points in 75 playoff games. And look, Simon had a 29-goal season for the Capitals in 1999-2000. He is not a goon in the sense that he is capable of giving you more than just penalty minutes and dropping the gloves. And he was a really nice guy off the ice. The problem is that he just, snapped and lost his temper a few times. So, there was the one incident with Ryan Holwig, and then the following year, Jarkko Ruutu, where, Simon just stepped on the back of Ruutu's leg, and it all kind of went downhill from there. Now, one of Chris Simon's better games with the Islanders, and there were a number of them. So, again, don't think he was just a one-dimensional guy. February 19th, 2007, at the Nassau Coliseum, Islanders hosting a very good Pittsburgh Penguins team. Marc-Andre Fleury, the goalie for Pittsburgh. Rick DiPietro, the goalie for the Islanders. And in this game, Chris Simon with 2 goals on 3 shots. And his first goal coming in the second period, Randy Robitaille and Miro Shatan with the assist. Then Randy Robitaille and Marc-Andre Bergeron assisting on his third period goal. Islanders with a comeback win. Simon's second goal tied the game at 5 early in the third. And then in the final 30 seconds, Mike Sillinger nets the game winner. Islanders beat the Penguins 6-5, 25 saves for DP. But Chris Simon, 2 goals, a +3, no penalty minutes in this one. And he had those goals in 13 minutes and 41 seconds of ice time. So Chris Simon, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. He is 52 years old today. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we will have our weekly farm report as we talk about all things Bridgeport Islanders, and we'll have the latest Islanders news as well. So hopefully we'll check out some more trade rumors and any other Islanders-related, injury-related news or whatever else there is. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.